Hi guys, and welcome back to White Noise. Thank you everyone that has subscribed on YouTube recently. Me and Sky have been so happy to see people that are enjoying our content and engaging. And thank you to everyone that's listening through other platforms as well, like Spotify, Apple Music, podcasts, and everything. We really appreciate that we're growing a little bit and that people are really enjoying our content. And on that note, today's video and episode, if you can't tell by the title, is a Black Mirror Season 6 ranking. As always, we're a tiny bit late to the party, but also I prefer to take my time, and I'm sure Sky's the same. Like,
Mhm.
better to take your time, be sure of your ranking, because the amount of people that on Letterboxd like change their ranking within 2 days of originally
Yeah.
putting it up. I know Netflix doesn't really help that because, they release things in one go and everyone binges it. But, I took my time. What about
Mhm.
you, Sky?
Well, I'm someone who I've said multiple times. Like, I know some people don't care about spoilers. I really don't like them just because, like, a lot of the time, I'm gonna make myself sound like Sherlock. I'm not, but I'm quite good at figuring stuff out. So if I have spoilers, I feel cheated because
Yeah.
I wanted to like follow
Yeah,
along.
yeah.
And anyway, so that's why I wasn't super mad about us doing it a little later because like
Mhm,
I get even with Netflix the way it releases stuff and the way streaming is, not everybody sees it all at the same time.
mhm,
Like I went into work at the weekend after watching it and not everyone had seen it. Some
mhm.
people weren't able to finish it. I'm sure we'll get into that kind of thing
Mhm,
in a bit. But yeah, this is also going to be almost kind of like a two-part
mhm.
situation. Like we haven't done something like this for a while. I guess the way I would compare it is the true crime and Netflix thing we did
Like
2 years
2 years ago,
ago.
yeah.
Like, but we loved it. It was great. So we kind of wanted to do something similar again. So this episode is going to be just about season 6 of Black Mirror. We're going to try not to go off on tangents talking about the rest of the series, even though
Mhm,
it's difficult, because then at the end of this month, we're going to talk about Black Mirror as a whole entity.
mhm.
We're going to do a tier list of all the episodes, our opinion. This episode is just going to be season 6, our rankings, and just our brief thoughts on each episode.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better. And basically just consider this episode more of like an in-depth dive. The ranking later in the month is going to be much more like, oh my god, you think that one goes there? It's going to be much
Oh
more
yeah,
because
the tier list will be chaotic and insane. Like this is going to be a little bit more organized,
yeah,
hopefully.
considering
Um,
they're the newer episodes, we actually want to like go a bit deeper into like our actual thoughts on
yeah.
each.
Hmm.
Not full length reviews or anything, but we'll dedicate a little bit of time to each one, and we're going to stamp below when we talk about different ones, so you
Yes.
can jump to them if you just want to hear about one or two. Okay, so the way that this is going to work is we're going to go through the order that the episodes are in on the season, and then we're going to basically say our ranking for each of them and give our reasons why and what we liked and didn't like for each episode. So, Sky, do you want to kick us off?
So obviously the first episode is Joan is Awful.
Hmm.
A very interesting episode to start with. Even before I even say where it falls on my list, I do think it was a strong start for the series. I saw where they were going with it. However, Joan is Awful is fourth on my ranking. Do you want to say where yours is before I get into my reasons?
Yeah, let's say our rankings before we dive into why. So for me, yeah, I'd say probably third as well. I've
Mm-hmm.
struggled a little bit doing this list. You could probably ask me tomorrow and it'd be a little bit different, but this
Mm-hmm.
is, yeah, for the most part, I'd probably go third for Joan is Awful.
So the reason Joan is Awful was fourth for me is because when it first started, I was like, "Oh my god, Black Mirror is back! It's back!" Like,
Yeah.
I love the concept. I was like, I kind of liked how like wacky it was as well because
Mhm.
some of my favorite Black Mirror episodes have been like the really dark, gritty ones, like the
Mhm.
ones very much set in reality that just like
Yeah.
make you have a panic attack. But I have also really like kind of like the kooky out there ones as well because it's like they are hard hitting but a bit easier to digest. So Jody's Awful had a strong start for me, and then it just it kind of felt like it started to become complicated for complicated's sake,
Mhm.
and it was almost like a parody of what Black Mirror used to
Yeah.
be, and it
Mhm.
surprised me so much to know that it's still Charlie Brooker writing the episodes because it's like I respect a writer and creator, when they want to branch out and try other things, which in some of the episodes later on in this season were also done, but I just couldn't with this one. I mean, I think even you said it, kind of summed it up. Salma Hayek being in it, for one.
Not a good fit for Black Mirror. It feels
I
like they're just
didn't
kind
think
of trying to
so.
tie big names. You know, back when they used to do it, there were people that like really did mesh well into that
Mm-hmm.
episode.
Mm-hmm.
So me and Sky were kind of fangirling a little bit over White Christmas before we start recording, which
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into too much detail about because the next episode will be for that.
Mm-hmm.
But say for example in that, the lead actors were perfect choices, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like John Hamm and Rafe Spell. They were
Mm-hmm.
just so good for those characters. It wasn't just
Mm-hmm.
we are chucking John Hamm and Rafe Spell in. And to be
Yeah.
honest, there was kind of an element of that when that episode came out because it was like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it wasn't an American thing yet. It was really rare for there to be really big names. Like, don't get me wrong,
Mm-hmm.
big people were in it, but it was kind of like before they got massive.
Yeah.
So now to see Black Mirror going the way of let's just get every big name, it
Mm-hmm.
just feels a bit.
I would need to
I say this
interject
with love.
quickly
It
as
feels a bit
well.
American Horror Story to me now.
It does. And I'm going to say this quickly in our defense. I know people are going to be like, oh, but that was the point. I know that because
Yeah, like
obviously the twist in it,
mhm,
when obviously, you know, that wasn't the original Joan
yeah,
and fucking, you know, Michael Cera was in it.
mhm,
I get that. Like, I know that was the reason why, but it still just didn't fit for me. It was
yeah,
also, I think the thing that disappointed me kind of from the get-go
mhm,
was that so much has happened in the past 3 to 4 years.
mhm,
So much has happened since the last season of Black Mirror.
mhm,
And I felt like none of that was touched upon. I
mhm,
really expected to have myself like thrown back
yeah,
into the years we've all just experienced.
mhm,
And that didn't happen.
yeah,
Instead, it almost felt like Joan is Awful was, it felt really similar to, you remember that episode? I can't remember what it's called, but you remember the episode with the social media rankings,
yes,
right?
nosedive,
I,
yeah,
yeah, I really did like that episode. It worked then.
yeah,
That's something that was relevant then.
yeah.
I know that streaming is relevant right now. And obviously, I know streaming was a big thing of the first two
Yeah.
episodes of 6, but it just didn't. I don't know. It just felt very out of place. And it was
No,
kind of
I
like,
agree. It feels a little bit like they were late to the party, which yes, I understand. But also I think like even in the stage of like coming up with ideas, maybe they should have been like, okay, everyone's kind of talked about streaming to death now. It's kind of like making a COVID film. You know, like
yeah,
it,
see, that's the
some
thing. Like,
things become cliche very quickly, and
Mhm.
unfortunately, I feel like streaming is one of them. And like so like I hate to say it, it came across as kind of like hypocritical. You know,
It
I just
really
kind of
did.
felt like, are you really criticizing platforms like Netflix when you're on Netflix's
When your
payroll?
platforms like Netflix,
Ugh, I was like,
which
oh,
follows
what?
through into the next episode, which we'll move on to in a second.
Yeah, and
Um,
I don't know about you. I felt like it was Charlie Brooker trying to be like, "Ooh, like I'm naughty," but it just came across as a bit like, what?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed it as an episode. Like, I'm not going to take away from
Mhm.
that, but it's just, I feel like mostly when it got to like the end and it had that like layer upon layer upon
Yeah,
layer,
yeah.
like I was like, it's not. Why is it that deep? It's not that deep. It
No,
doesn't need to be that
completely.
deep.
And I
Um,
appreciate they're trying to go into like AI and
mm,
everything like that. Um,
see,
it's kind of unfortunate it maybe didn't come out in like another 6 months to a year. So
yeah.
some of this could have
Oh,
unfolded a bit more when they started writing the
yeah,
episode.
I agree. I also think maybe they should have lent more into the deep fake side of it,
Yeah,
because that
completely
is
agree.
something right now that is
Yeah.
fucking terrifying
And
and
that's some of
like
the best stuff Black Mirror ever does is when they actually talk about stuff that seems so
mhm,
sci-fi-ish, but like actually it is here right now.
happening right now,
Yeah.
right? Whereas the thing, because obviously the deep fake thing
Mm,
and the AI was a part of it, but the bit
mhm,
that everybody focused on was, oh, nobody reads the terms and conditions, which yeah is like a scary thing because you
mhm.
think, fuck, what have I signed up to? But it didn't do it enough
I
for
agree.
me.
And
I will
also
say one
that's
thing
been a
though.
joke in quite a few shows now.
Yes.
So
Yeah, that is very true.
mhm.
The one kind of existential dread thing that this episode did make me think though is it made my paranoid ass so glad I dyed my hair before it came out. Any people, any listeners who have like I don't know, returning, and you've seen our episodes before, I had that hair, and like I dyed my hair before the episode even came out, so like it wasn't because of that, but I was just like, I don't know if my mind would have been able to take
Yeah.
that. But
You would
anyway,
start deep in it.
maybe I would have deeped it a bit too much. Maybe if I'd kept my hair, I would have
You'd have had an existential
related to it a
crisis,
bit more.
maybe.
Maybe, yeah. But
Completely.
it was interesting then that you had this kind of hypocritical episode, and then we went on to Lock Henry.
So where's Lock Henry on your list?
So Lock Henry for me, it is, so 2 and 3 on my list are interchangeable.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'll get into why when I get to the other episode. But Lock Henry for me sticks at number 2.
Yeah.
Because I do think it was a solid episode, but it was another one that it was like, Netflix, are you self-aware or are you incredibly dense? I really couldn't tell.
I think that's a similar issue with a couple Black Mirror episodes, is it's like trying to critique something, but it's in the wrong home. So if it was still a Channel 4 thing, which for listeners who aren't from the UK, Channel 4 is like, you know, it's a major channel in the UK, but they've always been known for being a little bit more subversive and a bit cheeky, tongue-in-cheek, all that kind of thing. Back when it was on Channel 4, the first 2 episodes, you'd have been like, oh, it's Channel 4 like dunking on Netflix. But now that it's on Netflix, it takes a very different tone. And it's like trying almost to like benefit from critiquing a platform it's homed by and housed by. Like, would the show even still be being funded and made if it wasn't for Netflix? So it's this tricky thing. But anyhow, Lock Henry is actually number 1 for me, despite all the shit I just said. But
no, but I get it.
Something that I meant to say at the beginning, but I will say now, is that Sky and I's rankings right now are not very objective for this season, because it wasn't actually very Black Mirror. We basically spoke about how our rankings are going to be more to do with like our personal interests and how much they maybe like fit Black Mirror. So for me, Lock Henry came number 1 because I mean, like, I kind of just love like sleaziness, which, you know, this episode definitely had, and it kind of gave me a little bit like Park Chan-wook vibes, like almost like snuffy, like Lady Vengeance.
You're right.
So I kind of liked that it went into that, because my favorite Black Mirror episodes are things like White Bear and White Christmas and Shut Up and Dance, like the really sleazy ones where it's like everyday people just kind of like lowering themselves. So I loved Lock Henry. I think I feel a bit robbed almost, because I feel like if Lock Henry had come out in like season 3 or 4, it would have been fucking brilliant.
Do you know, what you've just brought up has actually made me even sadder about it now. Is, you're right, if it had come out when it was still on Channel 4,
Lock Henry would have been insane.
Because it was, because like, like obviously I'm sure everybody knows this, but if somehow you missed it, it was a comment on the true crime phenomenon that we're still experiencing, that me and Leanna have made our thoughts on very clear, as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode.
We will leave info on that episode.
We will, you know, we did like a 2-parter for it, and even then, you know, we're saying we're not demonizing the true crime community.
It is a
that's not that's not what we're saying, right? But the sensation of true crime,
yeah, I get what you're trying to say.
True crime becoming like a binge-worthy thing, right? Is a problem, right? And Netflix is a big proprietor of that. Like, we literally did an episode called True Crime and Netflix because it was the one dishing it out, and like, it wasn't doing it for education's sake, it was doing it for pure entertainment. And I don't care that it's a streaming platform, you can have entertaining and educational. Exactly. So that's a discussion for another day. But yeah, the fact that this episode was basically like, this horrible thing happened to this guy, and then it had that scene at the end, and this is when, because there was the scene in the pub, right, when the owner of the pub said something along the lines of like, oh, you know, that Netflix docu-series with where the guy kills all those women, and then I can't remember any of the characters' names, sorry, but then the American woman's like, you're gonna have to be a bit more specific. I was like, oh, Netflix being shady to itself.
But then it's like, how actually interesting and subversive is that when they're just going to continue to keep making that content?
But this is it. And I was kind of like, if that was the only comment that was made, I would
Yeah.
have been kind of like, oh, the writers are like trying to sneak something in past Netflix. But no,
No.
you had the end where like obviously his life was destroyed and
Mhm.
then it was used for profit. And it's
Yeah.
like, Netflix, you this is what
It's
you
what you're
do.
doing
So
to
you know,
people.
it's like you
Yeah.
know that you're doing this then.
Yeah. And it just, do you know what? It made me really think of what's her name? The girl whose mother um tried to make her seem more like she had like difficulties than she did. And she
Mm,
had that online boyfriend. You know what I mean?
yes,
And
I
the
can't
film,
remember the
you know
series
what?
that came out with Joey King.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
I'm
yeah,
sure everyone in the comments is gonna be like, "You idiots, it's this." But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah, yeah.
basically, it really reminded me of that because when all the stuff
Mm,
came out, that woman in real life was like really upset about it, like
mhm,
fuming, was like, "I'm never gonna watch all of this."
mhm.
And it really did make me think of that a bit because I was like,
Yes.
how can Netflix be like taking the piss out of itself when it's like really hurting people in real life?
Yeah.
And it's like you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like it
Mhm.
low key pissed me off. Like, so that
This
aspect
is it
really
though.
wound me up, like
Mhm.
genuinely really wound me up. But, it being like in Scotland and like it's the UK again, it's British, like that, I'm sorry. If it's British, immediately it's gonna be high on my ranking. I swear
Yeah.
to God,
Mhm.
our bigger ranking. I know I keep like sprinkling in teasers for it, but you'll probably be able to separate it by
Yeah.
British episodes in America. And I'm sorry, it's just going to
Yes. You
happen.
yeah.
But there's just something about when it's to do with like true crime and stuff. Like there is something, I don't know if you agree, but there is something quite British about it. Like I know it's a relatively new thing when it comes to like the way streaming is done, but I feel like the UK has just always had a fascination with true crime. Like
Mhm.
everyone knows like local serial killers in the UK. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like it's just this thing here. Like even like Gavin and Stacey, which is a really popular comedy show from a few years back. A big joke in that, which is like kind of fucked up, is that all the family names of the characters are really famous serial killers.
Yeah.
And it's just things like that. Like I feel like it is a very British thing. And so Lock Henry, it made a lot of sense and it fit
Mhm.
really well. Like I am very happy that they did that episode in the UK because I think if that episode was in America, on
Mhm.
top of like Joan is awful, the whole season could have become very like monotonous right at the beginning.
If that episode had been in America, you may as well have just got Ryan Murphy to write and
Yeah.
direct it
Yeah,
because like it would
basically.
like you said, it would have just been an episode of American Horror Story
Or
and
like
like
American Crime Story, basically.
oh my god, yeah. Like I know this is probably gonna split like British and American listeners, because we do have both.
Yeah.
But it's and obviously we're going to be biased, but I feel like the Brits do just do macabre and gritty better. I mean, I guess maybe because it would appeal to us more because we're British.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said, like Joan is awful as a clear example. The sensationalization, I don't know if that's a word, but I'm making it a word now. The
Yeah.
sensationalization of that kind of media just in America does become a lot more, I don't know, cotton candy. I don't know how else to describe
Yeah, no,
it.
I'd have to agree. I think there's just something like about the way American media leans and the way British media leans. You can almost just even look at say like color grading,
Yeah.
like even down to the
Yeah.
fundamentals of like
Hmm.
costume and color. I feel like here we're less scared to be like, okay, this is going to be dark, but still realistic. Because I think
Hmm.
in a lot of American stuff, when it's dark and gritty, it's very like stylized. Whereas
Yes.
here, we'll be like, here's a rainy fucking street in like Newcastle, and it's like muddy and
Literally, yeah.
grubby.
Yeah.
It's not
But
neon lights in New York.
hmm.
But yeah, anyhow, what
Hmm.
do you think about Lock Henry in terms of fitting into Black Mirror?
I think it fit
Yeah,
personally. I really think it fit because the thing is that obviously the big thing with Black Mirror, the reason why it's fucking called Black Mirror is technology.
yeah.
So like technology ones are always going to be a little higher.
Mm,
But it's like you said about ones like Shut Up and Dance, for example. Technology was involved in a similar way in Lock
mhm.
Henry. Technology was involved, but it's more to do with like literally like holding a mirror up, not to get really deep with it, but like holding a mirror up to
Yeah,
society and
mhm.
not as if not being like, oh, this is you, but it's like this is the world. The
Yeah.
world is fucked.
Like if you think
Like
this is fucked, people are doing this. Yeah.
yeah, so for that reason I thought Lock Henry fit really well. And the
Same.
annoying thing is that if it hadn't been for the self-commentary from Netflix, it
Yeah.
wouldn't have fit. So it did need to be in there.
Yeah,
It
I
would, well, it
guess.
wouldn't have fit
Yeah.
in my opinion, because otherwise it would have just been like a true crime
I
episode.
guess, like we said, it's probably a case of it's housed by the wrong platform, you
Yeah.
know?
hmm I'd be
Completely agree.
interested to know like what people think about that. Like, did people feel the same way as us? Like, it was a really good
Yes.
episode. Like, we both ranked it very highly,
Mhm.
but we felt cheated and very frustrated. Like you said, even pissed off
Yeah.
that it came from Netflix, because it was, like I said, if it had just, like I said, UK listeners will understand this, but if it had been on Channel 4,
If it had been on Channel 4 in, like, 2013, you
hmm
know, magnificent. Completely. But yeah,
but that's all I can say
that's
for
Lock
Lock
Henry.
Henry. Yeah.
So, third episode is Beyond the Sea, which I
hmm
know is probably the most spoken about episode.
Yes. Yeah.
Where is it on your list?
It's number one, baby.
Is it number
I'm a
one?
basic bitch. It's number one.
Don't worry, it's number two for me. And I think it's interesting that you said your number one and two are almost interchangeable, because I would probably say the same. Like,
Oh no, my number two and
almost.
number three are
Oh, number
interchangeable.
two and number
No,
three. Yeah.
Beyond the Sea was my number one from the moment I saw it. It was gonna
Really?
take a lot for
Yeah.
me to have something else. I can't even explain it.
You just really enjoy that story.
Yeah, for me, it just had everything. Because this is the thing as well, like Leanna said, my episodes ranking is based on enjoyment, but also how I thought of it as a Black Mirror
Yeah.
episode. To me, this was all of it. Like, I
Yeah,
think
that's
it
good.
fit as a good Black Mirror episode. And it was interesting because it was a very Americanized one,
Mm.
extremely Americanized.
Yeah,
And
I
I,
kept thinking of it as very like like very Ridley Scott almost.
yes,
So very like I
yes.
was getting massive like Prometheus and Alien
Mm,
Covenant vibes, and like you know how, I don't know if you've seen them, but the new Alien and Covenant and Prometheus, have you seen them?
yeah, I
Yeah, you
have.
know how they're very much like, oh, like man, and like go like
Yeah,
really philosophical. It very much felt like Ridley Scott was
yeah, it
involved in
did.
that episode.
hmm
But
So
yeah,
where does it rank for you? Did you say it was second?
second.
Second, right?
But
Okay.
I think it's interesting because while it was a little bit predictable, that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a bad thing. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
predictable because it fit. Do you
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean?
Do you
Sometimes,
know,
yeah, sorry,
now
go.
that I think about it, I do think it was predictable,
Mhm.
but I had a completely different ending. I was like fixed to this other ending I thought was going to happen. I was so shocked when the actual ending
I
happened.
see. Okay.
I really thought what was going to happen is that he was going to take over his body, like he was going to like kill him in space, which is
Mhm.
kind of how it set. It did
Mhm.
kind of set it up like that. And he was going to take over his body and like live
Mhm.
out his life, and then we were going to see him like screaming in space, and then it was
Yeah.
going to end. No, it was worse. It was so much worse. And it was also that, like, to me, when it comes to like anthology series, especially when it's like one story per episode, I don't need it to be wrapped up with like
Oh,
a
I'm the
nice neat
same. Yeah.
bow.
Yeah.
If anything, especially when it comes to these kind of shows, I want to be left staring at my screen like, what the
Completely
fuck?
agree.
And to me, that's what Beyond the Sea did, because it just ended. It's like, what
Yeah.
happens now?
Think about the best Black Mirror episodes. They
Mm-hmm.
end and you're like, "What?" And you're just left like, I
Mm-hmm.
know, I need
Mm-hmm.
to know. But
But
it's so good because you won't be told.
yeah, but
Mhm.
if it carried on and then it
Yeah.
explained it, it would ruin it.
It would
So it
mellow it
ends it
completely.
ended perfectly.
Yes.
Do you know what's funny as well though? And this is again Netflix. Do you look in the mirror? It carried on the true crime
Mhm.
inspiration,
Mhm.
because who among us did not know, as they were watching when the guy's whole family was being murdered.
Mhm.
What did that remind everybody of? True crime fans.
Yeah.
What historical murders did that remind everybody of?
What are you,
The Manson
Amityville?
killings.
The Manson?
No, the
Oh,
Manson killings. Did that not remind you of that?
yeah, I guess. Now
Is
you
it just
say
me
it.
reading into it? I don't know.
No, now you say it, I guess.
That's what it very much reminded me of that. And it was just in
Mhm.
that moment again, I was like, was this intentional? I don't know. But anyway.
Mhm. It's kind of hard to tell with Black Mirror what was intentional or not,
Mm.
because it's
I
like
think it's
commentary. You like to think, oh my god, they're so clever for putting that in, and it's like, no, it's just me reading into it, and you can never know what is that or not.
Mhm. But just speaking of that scene though, horrific,
Yeah,
harrowing, heartbreaking,
that is
stomach
something I
churning.
will give this season credit for. Is it did go to some like slightly darker places again, which I was like,
Mm-hmm.
thank fuck, because
Mm-hmm.
I think when you're trying to do the kind of things that Black Mirror is, you can't be as candy cotton as like some previous episodes have
Yeah.
been. So yeah, I'm kind of grateful for
Yeah,
that, I will
you
say.
can have some of them. Like, we've said on other episodes, and again, you'll find out later on this month, but like San Junipero is one of the
Oh,
best.
but that's just
Is
so
one of
different, isn't it? Because
But this
that
is my
goes in,
point though.
yeah,
So you can have episodes like that,
yeah,
but for the most part, Black Mirror needs to just leave me feet questioning reality and everything I knew
exactly.
about it.
There's a time
And
and
it
a
was
place.
also exactly, and it was also really interesting to have an episode like Beyond the Sea do that for me that was not set in the time that I live. It was not even set in my timeline because
Mhm.
it's literally described as an alternative
Yeah,
60s
I think
where
that's
the
so
technology
cool.
was so advanced. I thought that was so cool as well.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, okay, there was one major plot hole in my opinion. Why didn't they just send the robots into space? But plot convenience. You
Yeah.
need, you couldn't have sent the
Sometimes
robots
it's
into
just for the
space.
lols, isn't it? You know,
Yeah,
you just got a
exactly.
vibe sometimes.
That,
What What did you think of the run time?
oh, because it was the longer one, wasn't it? I didn't actually even notice it was longer. Like I
Well, then
knew
that
going
clearly is
into
your
it.
answer, isn't it?
Well, there
You
you
liked
go.
it, yeah.
I thought it was fine. What about you?
I was like, yeah. If any
Yeah,
of them, like, I was indifferent. I was like, if any of them were going to be longer, it's probably that one. You
I
know?
think it made sense. I think
Yeah,
because there was like more to unpack, and obviously it was one of those things where you needed to have
yeah,
like a feeling of time
yeah,
passing, whereas the
mhm,
other ones you kind of didn't.
yeah. It's just similar to say like White Christmas. It was like this story could do with some time to breathe. You know,
Mm-hmm.
which is like, yeah, let's go, baby. Like, I
Great.
like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I like when shows aren't afraid to give something like an extra 10 minutes instead of
Mm-hmm.
cramping it in. Like, Last of Us did that, didn't it, with a couple of episodes. They were a
Oh,
little.
I don't think we should get into the pacing of The Last of Us
No,
because
no, I'm
I
just
have
saying,
thoughts
I'm
on
just
that, but
as an
yeah.
example, like, it is, I think, like, I wouldn't use the word refreshing because
Mm-hmm.
it's happened so many times, but like it is nice to see when like a team is confident enough to be like, no, we are gonna give, because it's not cheap to do that. It would be a lot
Mm-hmm.
cheaper to just like condense the story. It is really nice to be
Mm-hmm.
like, no, we want to give this story like what it
Mm-hmm.
needs, so we're gonna, adjust the time accordingly.
Yeah.
Um, Anything else about Beyond the Sea?
Well, I thought it was interesting. Something that you brought up just before we started recording was one of the things that didn't work for you were
What are you gonna say?
who was in it,
Hmm.
like the big names in it, and like say for me, I'd, it didn't bother me, but I kind of get where you were coming from.
I think I've just always really hated, like, I don't know, I guess just because not, I'm going to sound so pretentious right now, but I don't care. Basically, being someone that really likes, say, like a lot of, say, like 70s films, I'd say like a lot of my favorites are from that era. I just really love films where like they took a chance on randoms and like a lot of the cast, even if there's a couple big names, you don't really know anyone. And that was
Mm-hmm.
just something that I kind of struggle with Beyond the Sea because I really like the characters were interesting and everything, but like I would have bought into them a lot more if I wasn't thinking about Jesse Pinkman, which, that could be me, but that is
Mm-hmm.
just something, Aaron Paul is like a very specific kind of guy. He's a brilliant actor, don't get me wrong. And as a
Mm-hmm.
person, I love him. But like he's Todd from BoJack, and it was just this whole thing. And also like Kate Mara,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I found her casting correct. You might disagree. It was
No,
ever
yeah,
so slightly off for me.
mm-hmm.
And it just kind of felt like you could have found someone who was a better fit who wasn't as big a name.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I
The two leads,
no,
they were good casting, don't get me wrong.
yeah. I
But
get it. I think, do you know the funny thing is me, and maybe this is why it didn't bother me so much. So I never finished watching Breaking Bad. I've never seen BoJack.
mhm.
So to me, Aaron Paul, this is actually probably the first thing I've ever
So
really
it
seen
might
him
have been an
in,
issue if you'd
right?
seen other things. I
And
see.
then as for Miss Mara, yeah, I will agree with that only because of American Horror Story.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a bit, but I, stupid. I
Josh
actually
Hartnett was pretty good in it.
I didn't even realize it was him though, right?
That was what was good though. He was in the role, wasn't he?
But
It's
that's what I mean. So like obviously by the end of it, because it was that kind of thing where I was like, oh, feels kind of familiar, but can't
you
pinpoint
can't place
why.
them at all. Yeah,
And I didn't. And like,
yeah.
and the thing is, I said to Liana as well, whilst I was watching pretty much all of these episodes apart from one,
Mm-hmm.
I was actually writing a script for another episode
Mm.
at the same time. So like when maybe because some people have said like it dragged a little bit, like Beyond the Sea.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess maybe at times where it could have dragged, I was actually doing something else. So I don't know. It just felt like everything fell in place for me to
Yeah,
love it, because then it's almost like when I did come back and pay attention, entire family dead. I was
yeah.
like,
It's all
okay.
happening. Yeah,
I was like,
completely.
okay, and then that's it.
Mhm.
We're done. Moving on.
Overall, though, cracking episode.
Yes.
Like, I think it fits in Black Mirror. That would be safe to say. I mean, it's number one
Mhm.
on your list, so it's safe to say that you agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And I mean, if that's all we've got to say for Beyond the Sea, as a
Mhm.
little transition, I'm just going to say,
Mhm.
fuck me, if any of them were going to be long, thank God it was Beyond the Sea and not episode 4, which was Maisie Day.
If anybody has Maisie Day higher than last, don't talk to me. Don't
No,
call
you're
me.
just dumb, quite honestly.
It must be the only episode you watched. I'm sorry. I usually don't judge people for these kind of things, but Maisie is not only the worst episode, it's possibly the worst episode of anything
And
I've
this
seen
is
in a
coming
while.
from two people that love ginger snaps. Like,
That's so true. That's so true. And I love trash TV. Like I love trash
this
TV.
is exactly it though. Like, you and me love us like a shitty horror. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I can really get behind something that's crap. Like, I'm never above something a bit crap, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Maisie Day was just kind of taking the piss.
It was, do you know what? It was the first sign. Obviously, I'm not in Charlie Brooker's head. I don't know what's happening. But to me, it felt like the first moment where it was like Black Mirror is thinking about becoming something else one day. So they tried it with the last two episodes. It wasn't
Yeah,
just Maisie Day, but they tried it
completely.
with the last two episodes. If you couldn't
Mm.
already guess, me and Leanna both have Maisie Day as our fifth last. Boom.
Yeah, I should have said that.
Honestly,
I
shouldn't
feel
even
like the
be
reaction said it.
shouldn't even be on the list. But just quickly though, I would like no hate. I'm joking mostly. If you did actually like Maisie Day, I genuinely want to know why.
Oh
Like,
my
did
god,
we
I'm
miss
begging.
something?
Well,
Like,
the thing is, right, we have things we liked about it,
mhm,
but that doesn't
mhm,
equate to actually liking the episode. So basically, what we're asking is like not just the people that like really like the episode, but like
yeah,
just let us know anything that like maybe you did actually enjoy about it, because
mhm.
fuck me, I only have a couple.
Yeah, I have nothing.
Oh,
The thing I enjoyed the most was the guy having cue cards for the confrontation, and I was like so fucking relatable.
real. I mean,
Yeah.
so I know it's like a bit daft and out there, but I loved the concept of like the moment with the gun and she's
Mm,
taking the photo. I was like, oh,
mhm,
that kind of slays. Like, that
mhm,
would be a moment that could fit really well in some other screenplay. Like,
mhm,
I love that idea of like someone is at their lowest moment.
mhm,
Like that just felt really like HBO
mhm.
to me. I don't know
Yes,
about you. Like,
no,
it
it did.
really did.
I
Um,
will, like I said, I think the concept of the whole thing, like the whole paparazzi vultures, I liked that again because this isn't something we really have in the UK. Like we have shitty press,
mm,
like don't like, we do have shitty
but
press.
we have like the tabloids rather
Yeah,
than
we
like the paps. Like we have
yeah.
paps, but it's very
Mhm.
different, isn't it?
It's not the same, and also the paps only care about the royals. So,
Exactly.
um, so
Yes.
that I kind of thought was interesting. Like I said, it started off
Mhm.
interestingly,
Mhm.
and then obviously when she started fucking wolfing out, I was like,
Yeah.
what am I watching? This, because do you know what's funny? As soon as I saw her chained up, my head actually instantly went. I was like, oh, it's like if she was turning into a werewolf. And then it happened. And also, I can't decide if it was meant to be literal or metaphorical.
No, don't get me wrong. Like, I know it's like it's meant to be metaphorical, but they went literal with it to be interesting. But it's like, babes,
Mm,
only someone like Diablo Cody can get away with that. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it like, do
true.
you know what I mean? Like Jennifer's
Mhm,
body. It's like, oh, they're sacrificing her, but it's clearly an allegory for something
mhm,
else. You know,
mhm.
something like It Follows. You know, allegory for something else.
Maybe that's it.
That's clearly
Yeah.
what they were going for, but they fucking missed the mark by a
Yeah.
mile. And
Maybe
also
they just didn't
Zazie
make it.
beat. girl, what you doing? She's such a good actress, but some of the fucking projects she's been picking,
Yeah.
Ben, come on.
Also, I'm sorry, you also can't take Supermassive Black Hole, a song that is already solidified in history with one of the greatest scenes in
Is
cinema
never going to be
history,
separated, yeah. Like,
and put it in. And the thing is, I have to wonder if that's part of the reason it was chosen, because you know everyone hears that song, even if you've never seen the film, everyone thinks baseball Twilight, right?
yeah.
And
My
then
one,
obviously it
yeah,
ended with a werewolf, so I was like, was that
so
intentional?
ridiculous. Do you know what though?
Mm.
And I don't know if you're gonna think I'm like a bit of a twat saying it, but the entire time all I could think was South Park did it 20 years ago and did it better. Like,
I can't comment on that because I've actually never seen an episode of South
I
Park.
mean, like, I know everyone has their opinions on South Park, but that fucking Britney episode, like, right, so basically I'll give you a brief explainer because I doubt you're
Mm-hmm.
ever going to watch it, and this is for the
Mm-hmm.
listeners as well.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, there's this episode of South Park where it's focused on Britney, and she literally blows her head off. But obviously, it's done in like a South Park way where she just starts walking around with half a face, and people are like, "Oh, gee, Britney, what a botched surgery!" Like, and they're still like taking photos of her, and like she's literally
Uh-huh.
got half a face, and she's like in lingerie doing like a dance
Mm-hmm.
routine, and they're like, "OMG, her MTV like performance was really bad," and it's just all this stuff, and it's all the paparazzi start chanting, and it's like a sacrifice,
But do
and
you
they
know what?
start
I wonder.
descending on her, and then at the end of the episode,
Mm,
they're like, the harvest will be bountiful now. And then they show a new up and coming talent, and they're like,
mm.
our new sacrifice, and it's fucking Miley Cyrus, and it's just so brilliant, and it's
I
just
I wonder if that's why Maisie Day really like just missed the mark, because it was trying to be so serious. Like
yeah,
maybe it should have just been a bit more like
like it's such a
maybe
sad topic anyway, you know.
yeah, maybe Joan is Awful should have been a bit more serious,
Yeah,
and then they should have taken that humor and quirkiness and put it on Maisie Day instead.
we could say this for so many episodes of the recent seasons where it's like, oh, if
Mm.
only you had like kind of taken this element of this one. And do you know what I mean? Like, because each season has kind of, you know, they're a package deal, right? Like, I don't know if you agree, but I would, you know, call to one or two seasons and be like, there's like a common thread here, not necessarily in all the episodes, but in a few of them. And like
Mm.
in this one, I would say a thread was that it was taking itself a little bit more seriously again.
Mm.
But then it's kind of to its detriment in something like Maisie Day. And I
Mm.
don't know. But
I've already
but
given more time to Maisie Day than I planned to, so
yeah,
but
yeah, maybe
honestly, like if you want to comment like on this video or just like on our socials and talk about Maisie Day, you can. We will defend you. We'll defend your right to have the opinion, even if we don't agree with it. Because I'd
mhm.
also just be curious to know, because I really haven't come across anybody online or in like IRL
Sure there's people out
who
there
would
like Maisie Day defenders, you know.
right. I'd be curious to meet them.
Yeah.
So after Maisie Day, I did not have a lot of hope left for the rest of Black Mirror because honestly, actually no, that's a lie. I was about to say it kind of gone like this, but that's not true because my
Yeah, yeah.
rankings literally went
Kind of
up.
everywhere, yeah.
I guess Maisie Day just like fucked me up that much that I just felt like the whole thing was a bust. I actually know quite a few people that didn't continue watching after Maisie Day, which upsets me because the last episode, Demon 79. Now, Demon 79 is third on my ranking,
Mm,
but it was the one that was interchangeable with Lock Henry.
yeah.
And the only reason that it isn't second is because of the graph of enjoyment to Black Mirror-ness of the episodes.
Yeah.
It was not a Black Mirror episode.
Mm,
It was nowhere near a Black Mirror episode,
mm-hmm.
but I really fucking enjoyed it. Like, I really liked it.
Mm-hmm. You know, you saying that enjoyment to Black Mirror-ness, that would be a brilliant graph.
I'm gonna make it. Watch our socials. I'm gonna make it.
Canva, watch out.
Yeah, you can put your
Honestly.
you can put your I'm gonna make a template for everybody, and then oh my god, okay, so for all the 10 listeners that we have, I'm gonna make a template of the graph, take it, put
Oh my
yourself
god,
on it with the
yes.
episodes, post it, tag us, we'll share it, we'll discuss. Let's get this going.
Oh my god, I love that. I love that. Um, but yeah, unfortunately, Demon 79 is a little bit lower for me. It's not dead last, because what could be worse than Maisie Day? But yeah, it's place
That's
4.
an whole whoa. That's the worst insult you could have given to it. Just saying it was good because it wasn't Maisie Day.
But I just mean, like, it's not bad, but it feels like I loved its commitment to like 70s, like, 70s horror and all that. But it just, and I like that it's English,
Mm,
like it's like Brit again, but that just still, those two things weren't enough because,
mhm.
as much as I've been like saying I like the horror-y, darker ones and the British ones, at the end of the day, it just wasn't Black Mirror. And I know some people like that because, people go, oh, San Junipero wasn't proper Black Mirror, but it's still about
Different.
tech.
Yeah,
And I don't know, I
that's
kind of
true.
get wanting to do something different, but I'm also like, just do a different fucking show or make a short film.
This is the thing, right? So, like, not to lump them together because I wouldn't do Demon 79 the same dishonesty you just did, but Maisie Day and Demon 79 did feel like the break off point where it
Yeah,
was like, we're
different
going to
show.
try something new, see if it works, and then maybe move into that. I don't know why you would do that, but like,
Oh,
again,
just make a new
I
show.
yeah, I kind of appreciate maybe like the branching out and trying it, but like honestly, I don't think people had gotten tired of Black Mirror yet. Like
No, well,
the
they
recent
definitely are getting fed up, but the thing is, you don't
mm,
solve that by literally turning it into a different show.
well, the way
Like,
that I see it is that like I don't I mean again this is just like one person's opinion, but I don't think people are getting sick of Black Mirror as a concept. I think people are getting sick of the way Black Mirror is changing.
well, exactly. So you don't like, they're sick of the state it's in, so you don't
Mm-hmm.
double down and make it even more alien. You kind
Well,
of
that
return
was
to the
it. Yeah.
roots of it. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like that's literally what something like fucking Rick and Morty has recently done.
Mm-hmm.
They were constantly trying to try new things, and then they're like, oh wait, actually, people liked the show for what it was. Like
Yeah.
they actually kind of like rejected that a lot. In like season 3, 4. Rick and Morty, and I say this is very similar trajectory, I would say, to Black Mirror. Like they kept being really meta and memeing on people saying, make Rick and Morty again, classic adventures, simple. And they kind of hated that. And then I think they've realized that, oh, actually, maybe the audience were right. And like, we've gone too far in that direction and we should just be more
Mm-hmm.
simple again. Because they
Mm-hmm.
did that. They kind of like did all this stuff in like the recent season to return to that. And I kind of have this feeling that if Black Mirror doesn't do that in the next season, everyone's going to have been lost because I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but after Demon 79 and Maisie Day, it's going to be hard to bring a lot of viewers back.
I agree. I know I really do. Like I said, as much as I did like Demon 79, I just feel like it's like I said, I do appreciate the like wanting to branch out in creativity, but like Leanna just said, then just do a different show.
Yeah,
Like don't
completely.
like if you want to do a horror anthology, like okay, because those have gone really well in the past. But like go and do that because to be fair,
Yeah.
I'm here for a new horror anthology. Like I really am sick and tired
Mhm.
of Ryan Murphy having the freaking
Yeah.
you know yeah. So I would be very much here for that if they did a new series.
Yeah, completely.
Saying that though, I actually would say, just bringing up San Junipero again, that my enjoyment of Demon 79 was almost on par with how I felt about San Junipero, right? But hear me out. But hear me out. Okay. So San Junipero is obviously queen. It will always be the best, right? And you are
Yeah.
right as well. It did still have Black Mirror elements into it.
Mhm.
But when I say enjoyment, I just mean like I didn't feel cheated that it wasn't a Black Mirror episode because I just thought it was really well done. I really liked how it tied in. I loved the end. Like again, it was very predictable, but I loved the ending that no, it was all true and it
Yeah.
wasn't in her head because that was
Yeah.
seemed it almost went very Shutter Island, and I wasn't
I
really here
think
for that.
I think for me, it kind of felt like, when it's like people have submitted a project, like a
Mm.
class project, and everyone's done very similar thing, and then there's that one wild card who did something really different. And you're like, but that wasn't the
That
assignment.
wasn't the assignment.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
get it.
completely it for me. So like, I respect that you could enjoy it, but for me, if it had been something I saw like at a film festival, I might have really liked it. But I was like, girl, what are you doing here?
Hmm.
Like,
Do you
you
know
just
it's
walked
really
into chemistry and you're meant to be in math, like in literature
yeah.
or something.
It's really interesting because like it's one of those things that it had to be a part of a series. Whether it should have been a part of
Mm.
this series, I was gonna say debatable, but no.
It kind of felt like I said to you before, privately, before we started recording, like
Mhm,
it kind of felt like a film festival entry to me. It really
mhm,
did. Like
mhm,
it felt like I would have come out of, I don't know, like London Short Film Festival and been like, oh, that was the best one.
mhm.
but it doesn't feel like a Black Mirror episode at all. I don't know.
Yeah, I think with me as well, like again, this is like a personal viewing, but I also just really like that kind of dynamic with characters
Mhm.
as well. So like that's why I really liked it. And
Mhm.
like I actually really probably could have watched a whole season of these two, like
Mhm.
drawing out the story a bit more, or like a three-parter because you know she had to kill three
Kind of
people.
like Lucifer vibes almost.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Ooh, that's really true because I do like Lucifer. I'm starting to understand more and more why I like the show,
Yeah, yeah.
why I liked this episode. But I completely agree, and which is why you know it didn't go any higher than third
Mhm.
because I just yeah, it definitely wasn't a Black Mirror episode. It was probably the least Black Mirror of all of them. Like even Maisie Day was more Black Mirror than that
Yeah.
was.
Mhm.
But it just I don't know. I guess maybe also because watching it after Maisie Day, it was quite refreshing
Yeah.
because I feel like if Maisie Day had been because I thought it was a shame at first because I was like I know a lot of people that didn't watch Demon 79 because possibly because of Maisie Day. I know some people that didn't finish Demon 79 because they didn't like it, but which is fair.
Mhm.
But I feel like maybe if the show had ended with Maisie Day, then it would have been like I just think it would have been so much worse.
Mhm. I agree.
You know? And like I said, for some people I guess it did because they never watched anymore. But yeah,
That's when,
maybe
that's when you know that was bad.
yeah, maybe in a weird way I'm starting to kind of understand if there are people that like Maisie Day because I will die on this hill for Demon 79.
Mhm.
I don't know why. I just will. There was just
Yeah,
something about
true.
it I really enjoyed.
And I guess if it was something fresh for you as well, you're going to be inclined to enjoy
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. But
Just don't really have much to say about it.
no,
Like,
I like
just
good
as
or
in I'm
like
very indifferent to it, I
yeah,
guess.
I totally get that. Which is like I'm not like angry, I
Mhm.
think, at people who didn't like it because it's like it's fair because it
Mhm.
was also a very different genre. Like you said, like you signed up for Black Mirror and then you
Yeah.
kind of got given that, and it
It
was
almost
like
feels a bit like rude. I
yeah.
don't think that's the right word, but it feels almost like cheeky, being like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I want to try something, but I'm going to put it in this platform because I have it."
Do you know what it was like? It was almost like an hour long and like after credits scene.
Yeah, basically.
It was like it got snuck in after Maisie Day and after like you did have four episodes that were very Black Mirror and very much fit that
Mhm.
kind of vibe.
Mhm.
And then yeah, you just had that kind of sneak in as
It was
like you said, yeah,
very like she doesn't even go here.
very much that. Oh my
Mhm.
god, that's so true. But yeah, weirdly enough, I don't have a lot to say about it because yeah, I understand why people might not have liked it,
Yeah.
but I really did enjoy
I
it.
I don't know about you. I'm inclined to say I preferred it to Maisie Day, but I
Yeah.
kind of respect Maisie Day in a way more because I think having such an intense reaction to something is in many ways a much more interesting thing to have done than make something that people feel a bit indifferent about.
I understand where you're coming from. I can't agree just simply for the fact that I think anybody can make something bad.
Yeah.
That's what Maisie Day
No,
felt like to
I
me
mean as
though.
in like you like as in they were trying something. You know what I
Mm,
mean?
yeah.
Like I respect that. It's not like, oh, it's so crap that people had a reaction. Is that they tried something that unfortunately fell flat. Like the execution was shite.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I really do just think Maisie Day was just a bad episode
No,
overall.
this is what I'm saying is in I
Yeah.
agree it was a bad episode, but
Yeah.
I don't respect the script. But I guess I have to respect that they really did try something very different. Like it was shite.
Hmm. Well, I
You know,
guess
because what I'm criticizing
yeah.
Demon 79 for is that they tried something different, but it wasn't within the world of Black Mirror. And I
Mm,
guess Maisie Day was trying something very different that was at
hmm.
least Black Mirror adjacent. I don't
Yeah.
know. I guess these two, I'm just very like, like if it had been a 3 episode season, like Lock
Hmm.
Henry, Beyond the Sea, Jonah's Awful, like back in the day
Hmm.
when it was on Channel 4, I'd be like, cool,
Yeah.
you know?
But then they did 3 episodes last season
Yeah,
and
true.
people were very split on that, which, you know,
Yeah, true.
we'll get into a little bit more when we go to our tier list for the entire show,
I'm
which
so excited for that.
I'm very excited about it as well. I'm just thinking about it as well. Like, you know, we've consciously, you know, making our episodes accessible. So like we try not to drone on too much because, you know, the way me and Leanna talk, we could talk for hours about like a fucking pencil. Like that's how like into it we get. I feel like the tier list one is probably gonna have to be like a
Oh, it's gonna be
get a
fast
tea,
fucking
get a
pace.
snack, like Oh no, I feel like we're gonna have a
No, I
minute
mean,
because
like,
what episodes?
even if it's fast paced for us, like,
Oh, true. Yeah, true.
yeah. Like, any like normal people could say, like, right, the assignment before we
Mm-hmm.
record is go plan a single sentence for each. That ain't enough.
Mm-mm.
That ain't enough.
Mm-mm.
We're
Mm-mm.
not gonna fool ourselves.
No.
But yeah, prepare yourselves, kiddies.
Yeah, I am excited for it because we're gonna be talking about the British episodes. I
Yeah,
really do
literally,
think
like,
this is.
just talking about these episodes today has made me realize,
Mhm.
like, I just have so much more to say about the British ones. And
Yeah.
maybe that's because they're British, or maybe it's just because they were better seasons. But I just feel like there was more of like a world to them, even though
Mhm.
they're all set in different worlds. I
Mhm.
mean, we can argue that because they started like creating it all in one world, which ooh. Anyway, um, basically, like, it just felt like there was a world to Black Mirror.
Mhm.
And this season, whether you like, some people like that it's not like that anymore. I just
Mhm.
did, but yeah, some people would have liked that about this season. Some people don't, and I'm just one of the people who
Mhm.
didn't.
I would say probably my concluding thoughts on this season is that despite my qualms with it, I'm
Mhm.
not ready to say goodbye to Black Mirror just yet. I feel like there is potential to
Mm,
learn from this series and kind of, because like I said, there were really good elements and there were very bad elements,
mm,
and to kind of learn from it and yeah, just bring it kind of. I hate being this person because, like, whether it's a musician or a writer or any kind of creative person, I respect when somebody grows. I respect when they try new things, and like if
mhm,
they're happy, fine. Like I'm not gonna follow you on your journey anymore, but that's cool. Like that's fine.
mhm,
But I just feel like there is much more Black Mirror could give, but I
mhm,
feel like it does have to go back to the roots slightly. And I'm not just talking about the UK, even
mhm.
though,
Yeah.
yes, bringing it back closer to the UK, I think would help.
Mhm,
I just mean that kind of gritty makes me question the world I live in. And yeah, just especially with everything that's happened in the past couple of years.
you
Like,
know what? There's a fantastic analogy here.
mm,
Fucking Arctic monkeys. As much as they can be like, "Oh, we're doing something different, we're bored of that stuff. No one fucking wants it. Like, maybe like 10 people, you
that's
know?
so true.
And people are basically just sticking with the new stuff because they love the idea of them,
Mm-hmm,
you know?
mm-hmm,
And they're like, no, like, we love you. Do
mm-hmm,
they love these albums? Most likely not, let's be real.
mm-hmm,
It's not shitting on Arctic Monkeys, just
mm-hmm,
stating a fact. Black Mirror is doing the same. Like, I really do respect creatives wanting to do something else. And this is a weird case of maybe let the original creator go do something else and bring in people that want to return to the form.
mm-hmm,
A lot of people say you need the original creator to do that. No, you
mm-hmm,
don't. Like,
mm-hmm,
there are certain materials where, yes, you do, but I think a lot of people have a hold of what Black Mirror is and could,
mm-hmm.
there's some very talented writers out there who could definitely create a
Yeah.
similar tone to earlier seasons without directly copying it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like that is where the future needs to go.
And you know what's really interesting as well, actually? I cannot think of his name right now. If I come across one of his TikToks, which I probably will because everyone's
Yeah,
phone's listening to them. But if I come across one of his TikToks, I'll share it on our social medias. Because it's just basically he's just recording himself like as if he's in the writer's room of Black Mirror and he's just
oh
pitching
yeah, yeah.
episodes. But the episodes he pitches are actually really fucking
But
good. And I'm
this is
annoyed I
the
can't think.
thing.
Yeah, I'm really annoyed I can't think of any of them off the top of my head, but I'm just like, maybe that's what you should do, kind of
I
like an
completely
ask the
agree.
audience kind of thing,
Mhm.
because like I don't know if it's like maybe the original creators have become too far removed now
Yeah,
to
completely.
kind of
From their own
know what.
content. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I think sometimes it can be time to move on, and
Yeah.
hey, come back later, like that's
Yeah.
fine, like go and do more Maisie Days
I
and
mean,
Demon
put it
79.
this way, he could bugger off
Mm-hmm.
and he could come back and do like one episode every now and again. People be like, fuck. Be like,
Yeah.
it's like, look at like Twin Peaks, David Lynch like was removed from it for a long time. That went shit. But when David
Mm-hmm.
Lynch came back, people went crazy and it's a fucking fantastic episode of television. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can leave something and it's not going to
Mm-hmm.
be like, the same, but that doesn't always have to be a bad thing. And I kind of would like to see Black Mirror do that in the next season because there will be a next season. I think has it
There will be.
been renewed?
I
I
have no
I don't
idea.
know. I don't know. I don't
Honestly,
really use Twitter anymore.
I think the world's going to end, and the only two things that are going to remain are Black Mirror and American Horror Story. Like,
Ryan
that's...
Murphy and Charlie Brooker will never let them die.
Can you imagine if they worked together, though? I wonder how
Can you
that would
imagine
go.
like them having a pint or a cup of tea? Real recognizes
Interesting.
real.
Something to think about.
Something to think
Yeah.
about. Dream blunt rotation. But anyhow, that's our thoughts on Black Mirror season 6. If you think we missed any really glaringly obvious points about any episodes, please let us know. We kind of like being told we're wrong sometimes. It's nice to hear, points that we hadn't considered. And
Yeah.
maybe if you felt very differently, we'd like to hear that. We don't want to hear everyone going, yeah, I totally agree. We want to know
Yeah.
if you disagree.
I mean, we love when people do agree, obviously. So
Yeah,
like,
no, of
we'll
course.
take
Like,
whatever. But I think sometimes when we do these episodes, we get into our little bubble, because the thing is that
yes.
me and Leanna can have very different opinions, but literally before we even started recording this episode, something happened and we were like, with the same fucking person. So I do like to get these different perspectives. So like, just
Completely.
do us a favor,
Especially
just stay respectful, don't be hateful. You can have an opposing opinion. You just don't have
exactly.
to be an asshole about it.
Completely. Like, even if you agreed on a couple episodes, we love to hear that. And then we want to hear why you disagree. Like, we want to hear why you agree and you disagree. That's always fun, especially when it comes to anthology shows. But yeah, if you really enjoyed this episode, which I hope you did, then if you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We're getting a lot more viewership lately, which is really fun. But we're noticing not that many people are subscribed. So if you want to stay up to date on all the things that we obviously have a million thoughts on, then definitely subscribe. And if you've found us on any other like podcast platforms, give us a follow. It honestly means the world. And it's just really exciting to see our little audience growing a bit. It genuinely feels amazing, and it keeps us going and sharing our thoughts on all these pieces of media. It's really lovely.
And if you've ever thought, oh, my like or my subscribe doesn't mean anything, this past like couple of weeks has proven it really fucking does, because like, they've reached a lot of new listeners, and that's because of our returning listeners. So like, huge thank you for that. And also, yeah, like, you don't have to give us anything. It's just like an anonymous little like or a share or whatever, or a 5-star on Spotify. All of
Anything
our
helps.
socials will be linked below, so you can follow us everywhere. And just, yeah, it really does make a difference. So yeah, and we want to be able to keep doing this, and like, the motivation also needs to be there. So just knowing that people do enjoy listening does really help.
Very gratifying.
Yes.
So yeah, do all of those things, and we will see you soon. And I don't know, maybe get your rankings ready for the blank mirror tier so you can do it alongside us. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all for today, guys. Bye.
Bye.